Hi, welcome to the sixth audio in this series. These audios are designed to support the content and materials in the books that I wrote under the pen name Elizabeth McSweeney. They're called Fibromyalgia Road To Recovery. And in the series, there are 5 ebooks, and there's links to all of the 5 ebooks on Amazon below. This is the 6th audio, but we're still actually on volume 4 or book 4. And if you've been following these in order, I have told you before that volume 4 or book 4 in this series is an encyclopedic cornucopia of information. It would be massive if it was printed. So it's a good job it's in ebook form because it would be too heavy to carry around. So today we're focusing on chapter 13, Detox and Diets, and the important role that detox and alkaline diet and deacidifying your body with diet will play in your recovery from fibromyalgia. So if I had $1 for every time someone asked me how I recovered and I could articulate it and had a magic pill, I'd be worth millions. But if I could put it in a nutshell, one of the most important things was this deacidification process of the body. And it meant using an alkaline diet that really swung the body right over to that extreme in order for that pendulum to swing back to normal. So now I've recovered 10 years ago. I can, drink alcohol or eat wheat or drink coffee, all in moderation and not be ill. But all of those things, when I had fibromyalgia, would just bring on flares. So this is the 6th audio. We're still on volume 4. We're focusing on chapter 13, Detox and Diets. This audio is just over 30 minutes long, so do stop and start it if you just want to take it in 5-minute short bites. As usual, I'm going to start this audio session with gratitudes. I'm so glad you found me because it signals as much to you as it does to me that you reached a point in your illness where you are sincerely yearning to recover. And it may feel like a very, very difficult point in this journey for you, but it's brilliant. Thank you. I recovered from fibromyalgia a decade ago. I've been a bit silent about it because, to be honest, for many years, I felt ashamed of being so destroyed by the pain of this illness that I really didn't want to shout about it from the rooftops. And after I recovered, I tentatively had to take more baby steps forward to just finding myself, because this is an illness that it just destroys you. You lose yourself. So anyway, I lost 7 years of my life or more to the condition, and I just didn't want to think about it really. But now I'm feeling much more confident about reaching out and helping other people just like you. And this year, 2020 vision, I'm determined to turn my karma, or in other words, the experience of my journey through fibromyalgia, into my mission, which is to support you all in your healing and recovery, and massive plans for this year. So I'll share my journey and how I did it, but it didn't happen overnight, and it was just as much a spiritual recovery as a physical one. I had to take a holistic approach, so we're building up to all the information really that's in book 4 or volume 4, which is the framework of how I recovered. But I do think it's really important to have all the information to understand. I'm not just making up a framework, but to really understand how that process happened. So I'm going to record a different series about the more spiritual or esoteric aspects of fibromyalgia, along with some specific audios to help you there, because that is a massive aspect of the healing process. Before I natter away about the importance and practicalities of physical detox, let's all take a moment to focus on that feeling of gratitude. So this is kind of like a spiritual detox. So, however difficult your day was today, please take a moment to think about something in today, something good, something positive that you can truly say thank you. Thank you for that moment. In the first 5 audios, I've repeatedly mentioned 3 of the 7 healing principles that I talk about throughout this ebook series, and these principles help me form the holistic framework to my own road to recovery. And they are, if you like, the keys to my recovery process. So the first is about healing of past traumas, and that's because everyone, without exception, who wrote to me suffered a trauma or a series of traumas unresolved that seemed to trigger their fibromyalgia. So we're talking physical traumas, mental, psychological, emotional, spiritual. And the second key to recovery is the healing of sleep disturbance, which is so characteristic of fibromyalgia condition, and we could debate whether they're symptoms or in fact a cause, because we do know that without deep healing sleep, your body has an inability to recover and reset itself and rejuvenate. Now, what we don't need to debate is the fact that in order to recover, you need to have deep healing sleep. So as you get better, you will sleep better naturally, I promise you. But for now, if you need to knock out sleeping tablets, just don't feel ashamed about it. I promise you, you will be able to get better all in good time. Now, if you missed it, at the end of the second audio in the series, the support notes for volume 2 or book 2 in the ebook series, there is a guided yoga nidra sleep meditation, and I'm asking today if anyone out there can help me by composing some fantastic relaxing or binaural music. Please get in touch and we can produce a more professional guided sleep meditation track and issue it and get it out there. The third key that I keep on about is to become aware, to recognise any triggers in your environment, including other people. Environments can be toxic for us, but some other people can also be toxic for us. So please be aware of any triggers that might be setting off fibro flares, exhaustion or pain feedback loops in you. This concept of our oneness with our environment is in Buddhist terms known as Esho Funi, and I am a practicing Buddhist, but without my faith I think it would have been very difficult to find my road to recovery from fibromyalgia. Now, I'm not suggesting that you need to become a Buddhist, but I am suggesting that you do need to master some depth of deep faith and belief in your body's own innate healing potential, so in your own innate recovery process. So muster some strong faith here. So I can do that. I can speak easily now because I'm standing here today to say that 10 years ago I recovered and I remain medication-free, pain-free, symptom-free and fibro-free. And there really is nothing special about me. And I know you can recover because I did and other people have. So like the disease itself, recovery is a long, often arduous journey. There is no magic pill. So this long, often arduous journey to recovery doesn't have to be, which brings me on to 2 really important points. Now, I noticed when I had fibromyalgia that many sufferers introduced themselves and identified themselves by using the phrase us fibros, and I used this term throughout the 5 ebooks. Now I realise that needs to change. The pain of fibromyalgia is such that it takes over your whole identity like a veil of darkness. Now, you just need to get rid of that veil of darkness. Take it off now. If you use the phrase us fibros in conversation or in your head, you are holding your whole identity of yourself within one painful illness, and you're holding yourself in that position, and you know that you are much, 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 much more than that. So on that note, if there's anyone out there who would like to receive all 5 ebooks in Word format and in return for editing out every time I use that horrible phrase, I'm sure it's just a copy and paste job, isn't it? But replacing it, thinking about it on a deep, deep level and replacing it with something much more positive and appropriate. So please do get in touch, because I think that replacing that thought and that word is really important, that phrase. So this brings me on to my second point. Now, I want you to take a moment to reframe how you think about fibromyalgia. So since without exception, every person who wrote to me about their clinical and personal experiences and fibromyalgia conditions suffered from one or more traumas, physical, emotional, mental, psychological and spiritual, which triggered this disease within them. So let's reframe the condition fibromyalgia from an illness per se to a healing process. In other words, fibromyalgia is not the illness, it is the deep, deep healing journey in and of itself. Maybe that's why it's so very painful. I nearly swore then. Now, that's not to say it's somatic or psychosomatic. It's very much physical, which is why this audio is just focusing on the detoxing of the physical body. But healing from fibromyalgia is a complete 360-degree holistic journey, recovering your spiritual body as well as your physical one. This audio 6, is the support material for chapter 13 in the 4th volume of the ebook series. You can find the links below. Elizabeth McSweeney, that's my pen name. Fibromyalgia Road to Recovery, volume 4, chapter 13, Detox and Diet. So in other areas of the books, I go into much more detail about acidification on a cellular level that is causing lack of energy and pain in the body, and the sort of medical, more physiological explanations of that. The audios we're just going to keep really simple for now. So detoxing. Whether you're taking pharmaceutical medication, walking a holistic path, or travelling down a completely alternative path to finding a cure for your fibromyalgia, clearing your body of congested toxins will be an essential part of your recovery process. Now, I believe it's a build-up that causes many of the symptoms of pain and fatigue to appear first, a build-up of toxins. And therefore, detoxing plays an integral part in the Road to Recovery programme. I think in volume 5, in book 5, I call it a 3-day Road to Recovery programme or 5-day Road to Recovery programme. Obviously, I didn't recover in 3 days or 5 days. I was going to say you're not going to recover. I mean, never say never, but it takes a long time. But the reason I put it down into a little bite-sized chunk of 3 days or a weekend or a week was because it's quite a strict programme of detox, and therefore, and it's quite intense program looking at overcoming traumas, the sleep, the food you eat. So it can be quite intense. That's why I just put it down into a little bite-sized program. It's not that you're going to recover in those 3 days, but actually if you repeat the same thing for 30 days, so 3 days at a time or 5 days at a time, 7 days at a time, if you repeat the same thing for 30 days, it becomes habitual, and this is the way that you can turn this condition round. So in order to recover from fibromyalgia, I had to go through both an intense short-term detox and a longer-term continually cleansing and reversal process within my body. So for me, the short-term detox was most intense because I stopped taking all my prescribed pharmaceutical drugs, that's morphine, gabapentin, naproxen, other painkillers, paracetamols, because this process involved a period of increased pain. Obviously I had withdrawal symptoms. I had extreme insomnia, nausea, shaking, sweating, and that's all common with drug withdrawal symptoms, and I recognised what was happening. So that was the pain of drug withdrawal, not the pain of fibromyalgia. And I used homeopathic Nux Vom and Arnica to help me with these symptoms. And I increased my water intake to 3 litres a day using some added sea salt, which has potassium and sodium, to help alleviate muscle cramps. Now, I wouldn't recommend that anyone suddenly stop taking prescribed medication. I had to seek support and guidance from a very, very fantastic homeopath called Josephine Smolden, who happened to live in my village, so I was very, very lucky. Now, when I was in an acute state of drug withdrawal, I needed all of that. In hindsight, it might have just been better to seek professional support sooner and have a discussion with my GPs about what I wanted to do. So Recovery from fibromyalgia also involves a longer process of helping to flush out all the systemic toxins that build up, which you've accumulated in your liver, your muscles, your joints over a much, much, much longer period of time. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about how environmental stressors and physiology of fibromyalgia has affected your body here. I do go into more detail about it in the book with some really good research references. So the biochemistry of that is explained much more detail in the book. We're not going to look at that now. It's not a scientific lecture. Instead, let's focus on positive ways to detox your body. So there are many ways to detox, from drinking plenty of water to sitting in a sauna or a sweat lodge. And interestingly, a lot of people I come across with fibromyalgia, and myself included, when I had a sauna or a steam room experience, often that brought on a flare, a fibro flare. And I'm saying to people now, actually, it's a good sign. Your body is really trying to, recover. In fact, fibro flares, I think, instead of being hard on ourselves and saying, this is the illness, that's your body it really acutely saying, I need time to heal. It's kind of like it's begging you, I need to heal. So when you go and have a sauna or a steam room experience and drink lots of water, and you start to recover, you may feel worse before you feel better, but it's a really good sign, because what you're doing is everything is changing. Everything is changing and everything is clearing out of your body. So I used to live next door to a very active and healthy woman who was in her 80s. Obviously, I'm talking about 20 years ago, so she's not with us anymore. But she used to swear that her secret to health was drinking hot water with lemon first thing in the morning instead of a cup of coffee, and drinking chamomile tea last thing at night to help her sleep, and drinking hot Marmite or hot Bovril during the day. She did drink teas and coffees as well. I think she had afternoon tea and morning coffee. So since it's your liver working overtime every time you take caffeine and you're trying to detox your body, we need to strengthen your liver, give it a helping hand, because your liver does a wonderful job of clearing toxins from your body, and then it struggles if it's overloaded. So first, drinking more water. Now, perhaps with adding lemon, because that is a de-alkalizing, and adding a pinch of sea salt. Now, I'll explain about those ingredients a bit later. Obviously, there's a word of caution. Don't take lots of salt without discussing it with your nutritionist or your herbalist or your doctor. But salt is really important for the body, and sea salt has a good, healthy balance naturally of potassium. And in the last audio we spoke about how people with fibromyalgia are found to have low potassium levels. So perhaps replacing that lemon water, replacing caffeines and sugary drinks for that lemon water, that is a really, really good place to start. Good habit. So the taste of detox teas will vary depending on the ingredients, but most blends will include some herbal diuretics, alteratives, and bitters such as dandelion and burdock. Now, bitters help to cleanse your liver. They might be added to alcoholic cocktails for this reason. Think Angostura bitters. And actually, here at Lotus Natural Healing, we are looking into creating a cannabis or CBD bitters, which we will have more information about later this year. Known historically as blood cleansers, modern herbalists use alteratives to improve our body's ability to eliminate waste through kidney, lungs, liver and skin. Now, don't be fooled into thinking that commercial carbonated dandelion and burdock soft drinks, for example, can aid in a detox process. They can't. They're made of colourings, flavourings and sugars, or even worse, that neurological stimulant, that absolute toxin, diet sweetener, aspartame. Really, really stop drinking those diet drinks now. It's not good. All of which will increase your liver workload, all of those things. So Medicinal quality herbs and roots, such as dandelion roots, are recognised by modern herbalists as being effective in treating chronic degenerative joint diseases and helping to increase mobility and reduce stiffness. So herbalists have known this, modern herbalists have known this, for a long, long time. And we're always trying to extract those active ingredients in those natural substances. Because everybody is waiting for that magic pill, that magic cure. But herbalists have known that roots such as dandelion are recognised to be effective in treating these chronic diseases. Fibromyalgia is not a degenerative disease. It feels like it, but it is not, and it is reversible. So when trying detox teas or dandelion and burdock for the first time, I often hear people say that they can't drink it because it's bitter and horrible and they don't like it. And my response to that is, or people say, oh, I don't like water. And my response is that, well, fibromyalgia is bitter and horrible. So do you like having fibromyalgia? Dandelion root and leaf is recommended for all liver conditions, jaundice, rheumatism, arthritis. It cleanses your liver, it increases flow of bile, and it has a diuretic effect by stimulating your kidneys. Excuse me. Whereas most diuretics lead to a loss of potassium from the body through increased urine, dandelion is in itself one of the best natural sources of potassium and therefore one of the safest diuretics. So we have said before that it has been found in medical research that people with fibromyalgia have lower potassium levels. And we spoke about that in the last audio. According to the medical herbalist Andrew Chevalier, studies of burdock root show that polyacetylines, especially in the fresh root, have a strong antibiotic effect, and the constituent arctin relaxes smooth muscle fibre. That's interesting. I wonder if it works as a topical when rubbed in. So detox drinks are often flavoured with ginger, peppermint, spearmint. So they're sort of stimulants, they're all carminative, they're all rich in volatile oils which have a soothing effect on your digestive system. And turmeric. Turmeric, again, is very, very bitter and it helps to flush the liver, rejuvenating liver cells and stimulating the production of bile. It's quite popular right now. We sell products on Amazon. Look out for our Green Lotus label, and I think we will be producing some tablets of turmeric, and we have a fantastic contact in Sri Lanka, which is where turmeric comes from. It's known as a healing root. The real solution to pollution is dilution. So the real solution to pollution is dilution. Okay, I've mentioned increasing the amount of water you drink. I've mentioned this a few times now. The healing powers of water is actually the fourth key in the recovery process, or the fourth healing principle that I mention. They all culminate in book 5. There are 7 healing principles that I used as a framework for my recovery, my own recovery program, and water is the fourth of the healing principles, the healing power of water. So I do talk about that a lot more in books 4 and 5. In one of many books on the subject, Dr. Batman Jalid explains the healing powers of water, how long-term chronic dehydration causes diseases such as chronic fatigue, arthritis, rheumatoid, neck backaches, asthma, allergies, irritable bowel syndrome, headaches, depression, insomnia, and fainting. And I'd like to add fibromyalgia to the list because now that I am rehydrated and I can see how being dehydrated really made my fibromyalgia symptoms, increased them, made them worse. If I ever had a glimmer of a thought that my symptoms were returning, the first thing I would do is increase my water intake. The osmotic flow of water through individual cell membranes generates a voltage gradient, a biochemical hydroelectric energy, and this process is called hydrolysis, and the energy generated is stored until it's used for elemental exchange in the transmission of nerve impulses. And we often feel that some people with fibromyalgia are tested, for example, for multiple sclerosis and other neurological conditions. We feel muscle spasms, we feel those things. Now, obviously, lots of people say, yeah, but I'm already drinking lots of water. And good, great, good. Always keep a glass of water with you, always drink lots of water. But do bear in mind that if you're drinking lots and lots of water, you will be flushing out other really important minerals from your body and water-soluble vitamins. So it is a 360 holistic, very strict approach that we're taking here. Water on its own is not going to make you better, but I guarantee you, I will lay money on this, absolutely my life on it. If you don't stay hydrated, recovery would be almost impossible. So in dehydration, the nerve system, the energy and the volition within the nerves, that's the energy they use to work, is drastically reduced. In other words, you experience fatigue and even that familiar sensation of, my legs don't work properly. That's how I used to feel. When you become dehydrated, your body physiology is set to the same program that occurs with all situations of stress, because dehydration is a situation of stress. So your sympathetic nervous system becomes stimulated and you enter that fight or flight mode. So we were talking, I think, in audio 2, in relation to volume 2 or book 2 of this series, where we were talking about the fight or flight and the stress responses in the body. And the compound effects of those. So, Dr. Batman-Jellige explains that the pathology associated with physiological, environmental and socio-psychological stressors, for example, depression, fatigue and exhaustion, is the result of water deficiency. Now, it can be the metabolism, the way that your body is dealing with it, and it can be the minerals in the water. But it's dehydration. When stressed by dehydration, when the body is stressed by dehydration, our brains activate histamine, and our kidneys promote the absorption of salt, resulting in water retention, edema and swelling. So next time you're feeling fatigued or experiencing allodynia, that's the itchy shingles type pain on your skin, try adding a pinch of sea salt, that's the salt with the potassium as well as the sodium, to a glass of lemon water, and first, before resting, rehydrate yourself. Now, I write extensively and comprehensively about the physiological and spiritual healing aspects of water throughout this book series. So, one of the healing principles, the healing power of water. The links to books are below, but now I'm just going to move on to the systemic strengthening and acid-free diets. So, your body, your system needs strengthening, and you need an acid-free or alkaline diet. So you can Google lots of information, or look on the internet. Other search engines are available. Look up alkaline diets and acid-free diets. And detox isn't just about using water to help flush toxins out of your body. It's about taking the right foodstuffs in, eating the right diet in the first place, and eating the right foodstuffs, treating food as medicine. Okay? Treating food as medicine to support strong systemic and cellular functioning. So food isn't a snack, food is medicine. Treating your food as your medicine. Crucial to supporting strong systemic and cellular function is supporting our kidneys, spleen and liver functions. Kidneys are the first fetal organs to develop in the womb, and they support our adrenal glands, which release that adrenaline to trigger energy. And adrenaline helps the body adjust to sudden stress. And also with fibromyalgia, we can feel stuck in that stress, fight or flight behaviour which is depleting kidney yin energy. So if you feel an ache in your middle and lower back, or you have cold patches in these areas, this could indicate that your kidneys need strengthening. I remember when I had fibromyalgia, all sorts of parts of my body would either feel in patches of hot or cold, very, very out of sync. So if you're cold in the lower back, or you ache in the lower to middle back, this could indicate that your kidneys need strengthening. Take action by keeping warm. So, our grandmothers always said wear a vest. Drinking water and eating specifically kidney supporting foods like red peppers, blueberries, garlic are just some of the foodstuffs. I wouldn't put those three things together, although maybe there's a recipe in there. Some of the foodstuffs we can eat to help support our kidney function. So we'll be listing some specific alkaline foodstuffs later. Cranberry juice, green tea, horsetail, hawthorn and marshmallow, that's the herb, not the squishy sweets, all make kidney strengthening drinks. So marshmallow root and horsetail, which is another bitter, hawthorn, green tea, cranberry juice. So look out for some teas in the health food shop with those ingredients. According to the teachings in traditional Chinese medicine, the spleen affects willpower and temperament, which are definitely out of sync when you have fibromyalgia. And the function of the spleen is to nourish and support all aspects of the body's health. So it is important to nourish and support your spleen. We are by nature what we eat. For example, excess of cold foods, ice creams, raw vegetables, fish, fruit, salad, cold drinks, all can cause pain in the stomach and spleen. Hot spicy food can cause heartburn and thirst. Excess of sugary and sweet foods can also cause thirst, but they cause dampness and heat in the stomach, and that results in painful bloating, loose stools, common irritable bowel syndrome symptoms. Irritable bowel syndrome symptoms of food intolerances are often quite common in fibromyalgia, and the problem there is that chronic long-term irritable bowel syndrome can actually have quite major impacts and cause other complications. So avoid those sugary and sweet foods. Greasy and fried foods also cause dampness, phlegm, catarrh and aching muscles. And again, that resonates with rheumatism and rheumatic pains that we experience with fibromyalgia, that rheumatic pain. Type pain, I should say. It's not rheumatism, it's a rheumatic type pain. Your spleen is a fist-sized organ on the right side of your abdomen. The spleen filters blood and it produces white blood cells which produce antibodies to help fight off disease. It's pretty important, and historical medical texts suggest that weakness in the spleen as being the source of melancholy or depression. And I know that people with fibromyalgia suffer from depression, and I'm sort of laughing at myself because that's not a surprise, because chronic pain is depressing. To nourish and support your spleen, therefore, is really, really important. So to nourish and support your spleen, eat root vegetables, particularly ones that are yellow and orange vegetables. So we've got carrots, squash, pumpkins, red lentils and honey, and naturally sweet but not sweetened fruits. So banana, blueberries, figs, little sweet grapes, sweet pears, plums and raisins. So that's quite an interesting bowl of colour, oranges and purples there. Orange root veg, squash, carrots, red lentils, bananas, blueberries, figs, sweet grapes, sweet pears, plums and raisins. Now, people with fibromyalgia often feel cold. Heating foods for the body include cayenne, capsicum and chili peppers, and other warming foods include, for example, leeks, onion, garlic, runner beans, squash, again back to the orange vegetables, sunflower seeds and dates, cherries, brown sugar, walnuts, sweet rice, raspberries and peaches. And for flavouring, use the vinegars, the fruit vinegars, cider vinegars, wine vinegar, wine, fennel, coriander, cloves, chives, caraway seeds, nutmeg, basil and spearmint. Gosh, that's all making me really hungry. If you are a meat eater, chicken, mutton, ham and kidney are also all warming foods traditionally used to strengthen the spleen. I've highlighted those foods in the books, and there's also some delicious alkaline recipes. There's no photos in the books, unfortunately, so you have to use your imagination or actually make the dishes. But the recovery program does involve some specific recipes and quite a strict diet, but yummy, hopefully a yummy diet for a few days. Now, strengthening the liver. The primary role of your liver is to detox chemical substances from your body. If it's overloaded and can't work at an optimum level, toxins stagnate and then you feel sluggish, you have fatigue, poor digestion, allergic reactions, headaches, symptoms of hyperglycemia and irritable bowel syndrome. Do you recognise this? Stagnating toxins build up, causing a backlog at a cellular level, and this then affects your cell functions, causing fatigue. So again, that's not a very medical explanation. More medical explanations with some research papers are in the books. It's this toxicity that forms the foundation, so for the pain, rheumatism, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia symptoms, as well as multiple chemical sensitivities. Oversensitivities is also very, very prevalent, so it's like a system breakdown. Some researchers have noticed changes in red blood cell energy metabolism of patients with fibromyalgia. Now, just because your red blood cell energy metabolism has changed doesn't mean that's irreversible, okay? It is reversible. The liver also releases an important working hormone, IGF-1, and in 1997 a test showed that 85% of people with fibromyalgia had IGF-1 levels below the 50th percentile of the control population. Now, many people with fibromyalgia are prescribed a cocktail of pharmaceutical pain-killing drugs, all of which are metabolized in the liver, and irritability and anger are characteristics of liver toxicity. Do you recognise any of that? And pain-killing drugs such as your morphines, your gabapentins that are used for that shingles-type pain in both cancer and multiple sclerosis and fibromyalgia are also anecdotally reported to increase irritability and anger. So there may be a link there with the liver. I had gabapentin and I didn't notice that. I did feel incredibly angry when I had fibromyalgia, but I was angry about the situation. I also think that the anger was an integral part of the healing process. When we grieve, when we're in shock, anger is a natural reaction. But it does appear that anecdotally that people say they take gabapentin and they report irritability and anger. It could be part of the healing process though. When I took gabapentin, it cleared my fibro fog. For example, with other people, it can give them the fibro fog. It cleared mine, but it did make me put on weight, and I know it was the drug because when I stopped taking it, when I was taking gabapentin, I went up 2 dress sizes, and when I stopped taking it, I dropped those 2 dress sizes within a couple of months, a few weeks. So, for all of the reasons above, it's important to cleanse your liver, and if you're really determined to recover from fibromyalgia, you will have to change your diet and the things you're taking into your body. You will have to detox, and you will have to swing that pendulum from an acidic diet of sugars and carbohydrates, alcohol, caffeine, towards a deacidifying, alkalizing diet. Now, paradoxically, taking acids like lemon juice and cider and wine vinegars and apple vinegars have an alkalizing and deacidifying effect on your body. So all good, all good. One of the most important spices to nourish, refresh and flush the liver is turmeric, so we've mentioned that before, and again it's a bitter, so like CBD, like cannabis, it's a bitter. Try this recipe: 1 teaspoon of ground turmeric, 1 teaspoon of honey, 1 ounce of ground ginger root, preferably fresh, and a slice of lemon and a drop or a couple of drops, a pipette, couple of drops of a nice broad spectrum whole hemp plants, sativa, cannabis oil. So full spectrum, whole plants, sativa. You can just drop a drop of CBD oil, but what you're really looking for is that lovely green oil, which is the whole plant hemp, because it has an entourage effect. It has many, many, many more cannabinoids and terpenes. So that recipe again: ground turmeric, bitter, teaspoon of honey, sweet, ounce of ground ginger root, and a slice of lemon in a large mug of water with a couple of drops of full whole spectrum, broad spectrum rather, hemp sativa cannabis oil, which is loaded up with CBD. And you shouldn't really need more than a 5% or a 10% CBD. I think there's a bit of a craze at the moment to get the most powerful CBDs on the market, and the plant knows best. The natural balance in the plant itself knows best. So they're all bitters again. Acidic pH in cells can cause acidic pH in cells can be caused by acid-forming diets, but they can also be caused by emotional stress, traumas, toxic overload, immune reactions, and other conditions that deprive our cells of oxygen. So this lack of oxygen is quite big in fibromyalgia. And also acidic cells deprive our cells of nutrients. So this then creates a vicious cycle. The acidic condition inhibits the absorption of oxygen and the nutrients, and this causes increased toxic overload, which then makes it difficult for the cells to take in oxygen and nutrients. So this toxic overload and increased cellular toxicity and acidity prevent cells from working efficiently, resulting in decreased cellular energy, which is increased fatigue and pains, and the inability to repair, for the body to repair itself, making us vulnerable to other illnesses. And that's another reason it often feels like fibromyalgia has a degenerative prognosis. It does not. It is reversible. So if this sounds familiar, you will have to swing that pendulum right over from your normal diet, whatever you're doing now. It's not healing you, is it? So whatever diet you have, you may be very careful about what you eat already, but it's not healing you. So you need to swing that pendulum right over to the alkalizing diet and stay there until your body is healing. It's no good doing it for a day or even a week or even a month. It's like you have to swing that pendulum right over to alkalizing, deacidifying diet until your body starts to get better. In order to redress the balance of systemic acidification, the recommendation is to eat alkalizing foods only. So only alkalizing food, not add them to your diet, only eat alkalizing foods. So this is something we're really strict about. The most alkalizing food includes lemon and vinegars, as mentioned above. Also, limes, cantaloupe melons, dates and figs, sweet seedless grapes, sweet pears, raisins, fruit juice, plums and vegetable juices, and also strongly alkalizing vegetables. Cayenne, capsicum and chili peppers, asparagus, the orange root vegetables as above, and parsley, watercress, rocket, again all bitter, and sea salt. So here's a challenge. It sounds like a bit like a Ready Steady Cook challenge, but if you can make a fabulous recipe from the list of alkalizing foods, please post it below and we will award a prize, or actually post a picture of it on our Twitter feed. So you can find me at Elizabeth McSwee. We have another Twitter feed, I think, at Fibro-free, but it's not very active. So we're Fibro-free at Elizabeth McSwee. So here's that list again. This is your challenge. Make a nice recipe out of these foods. Lemon, apple vinegars, wine vinegars, lime, cantaloupe melons, dates and figs, sweet grapes, sweet pears, plums, raisins, and vegetables, juiced vegetables, particularly those lovely orange vegetables, and cayenne, capsicum and chili pepper, and asparagus, parsley, watercress, sea salt and rocket, and make sure you throw in some turmeric too. It's quite often, notice all vegetables there. If you did, there are meats that you can eat if you want to eat meat, but there was no carbohydrates in there, there's no sugars in there, except for obviously the sugars in the root vegetables. It's quite common for people with fibromyalgia to become almost completely intolerant to certain foods and suffer from systemic food sensitivities, the most common being wheat and dairy. I had couldn't touch them. And also people with fibromyalgia suffer from irritable bowel syndrome. So here's the don't eat list as opposed to the do eat. So these foods are making you ill. Please avoid artificial sweeteners, coffee, alcohol, wheat, pasta, dairy products, milk and cheese, pineapple, processed food, including cereal, microwaved food, ready meals, biscuits, cakes, and sugars. Now, artificial sweeteners, definitely give those a miss. All of the other foods, your body is sensitive to them. They're not allergies, and there's nothing wrong with those actual foodstuffs. It's just that right now your body can't tolerate them. So once you recover, you can reintroduce them back into your diet. So it's a good idea to avoid certain foods if they trigger symptoms such as fibro flares, and it's important to understand that they're not the cause, right? There's nothing wicked or evil about those foodstuffs. It's just your body can't tolerate it at the moment. So when we have an overload of liver function and a toxic buildup in our bodies, we may become sensitive to some foods, but the foods themselves are not the problem. It's our body's reaction to them, and once you've healed and you've recovered, reintroducing them will be fine. When healthy, our body should be able to process all manner of things in moderation, and all kinds of toxics and poisons that we take in moderation, because our bodies are pretty amazing things. Now that I've been fibro-free, medication-free and symptom-free for a decade, I have been known to slip some of those, those foodstuffs and a little tipple or two and lots of caffeine and things back in. But always pushing diets back over to that alkaline side to maintain health and well-being. Now, being paranoid about what food you eat is also bad for you. Being neurotic about your calories or your packet ingredients, or needing to avoid a whole list of foodstuffs, being scared that you're going to eat something that triggers a fibro flare, it's all a very unhealthy approach to eating. So my advice is to follow a varied whole food diet, mainly of fresh organic fruit, vegetables, nuts and pulses such as lentils. And using good quality sea salts, that's the ones with the natural sodium potassium balance, is also essential for recovering from fibromyalgia and during your journey. And this journey through fibromyalgia is a deep, deep, deep healing journey. It is important to address physiological disease and with a strict alkalizing, deacidifying diet. Strict. Now remember, swing that pendulum right across and then it will naturally realign and balance you in the middle in a healthy position where you belong. Now there's some top tips as well as lots of yummy recipes in the books, in books 4 and 5 of this series, links below, which is actually making me hungry. So I'm going to leave you with this gem of advice from Somerset-based practitioner Judith Gibbs, who is a practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine. And she wrote, "Our eating habits can affect our health as much as the food we eat. Our eating habits can affect our health as much as the food we eat." So if you're following a special medical diet prescribed by your GP, dietitian or nutrition, always consult them before changing it. But do take food at the same time with similar quantities of food. A good breakfast, a lunch with a light evening meal is advised. And try not to eat when emotionally upset. Try not to eat too fast on the hoof late at night while working, discussing work, reading or watching TV. Try not to work immediately after eating. Try not to nibble constantly. Try not to change your diet or fast suddenly. Fasting when your stomach and spleen are deficient can cause increased depletion. Try and focus on the food you're eating, and it's a really old-fashioned thing, but give thanks for the food that you eat. Now, I told you that volume 4 of this ebook series is an encyclopedic cornucopia of its own, and there's another audio that supports it, and it's on its way. So this ebook, it is massive, volume 4, so there's another one. But before, there's another audio just to support that book, and that's before we move on to book 5. And in book 5 we will use the 7 healing principles and introduce the strict framework that I use to support my own recovery from fibromyalgia. So the next audio in this series will extol the virtues of paced exercise in the management and the recovery of fibromyalgia. So until next time, have a great time, have a great day tomorrow, and I will be back to support you again soon.